All right, hello, hello, welcome. It's Sunday. You know what that means. We're back at it again, talking speedrunning. Little Mario Maker focused episode today, though. Um, Welcome, Riley. Awesome shirt choice, by the way.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. You have an excellent sense of style.
Of course, you gotta represent, you know?
Yeah, I thought to myself, I'm going on a speedrunning show. There's only one shirt I can wear.
Well, apparently I think the same way, so great minds think alike, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's fitting because I'm pretty sure we were both wearing this shirt when we met for the first time, so
It's
it wouldn't
quite
surprise me
possible.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The nice SGDQ 2023 runner shirt. That's what this is right here. Got the camera's backwards. There it is. Right? Yeah, it's this
Yeah,
runner in very
yeah, it's
interesting font, but you can make it out. But yeah, anyway, excited to talk about some Mario Maker side of things. Um, I know you've been very heavy in the discussion of 0%, and
yeah, for
that's been
sure.
concluded for a while, so it'll be nice to go into that in a lot of detail as well. But this is just stuff to look forward to. I'll go ahead and start things off by asking how you got into Mario Maker stuff.
So my introduction to Mario Maker was just through YouTube videos, and there was a guy called Sean Hip 2 who made like puzzles, like one screen puzzles, and he would later become like pretty well recognized because Carl would have a whole series where he like played through his levels. But before that, he was just submitting stuff to this YouTuber that we both watched, and I thought they were the coolest thing ever. So I wanted to get the game to make puzzles, which is exactly what I did. And then eventually I started to learn Kaizo tricks because people were doing Kaizo to cheese my puzzles. I'm like, okay, I need to test these, I need to de-cheese. And it sort of just snowballed from there to where I'm at now, where I can't even look at a puzzle. Yeah, it's all Kaizo, it's all more mechanical stuff for me now. But yeah, that was the start, and I met this like amazing community along the way, and it's continued to develop and change. And there's different pockets and subsets, and yeah, a lot of really cool friends made through Mario Maker.
Yeah, and did this start with the first game?
Yes, yeah. So I started in 2015. I
All
should have
right, so
said.
you've been around for a
Um, yeah,
good amount of
I
time.
I got my Wii U in December, so not right at the start. I wasn't there like day one, but within 3 months I had the game and I was making levels.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the first game. I didn't play it too much because Wii U, but you know.
Yeah,
But
exactly. You and everyone else.
yeah, but man, that game was just so nice. I know Mario Maker 2 obviously added a lot of things that made level creation so much more interesting and in depth, but what I really liked about that first game was, all the cool skins you could unlock and then build your levels around that and theme them of these different characters, and there were so many of them. I don't know why they
Yeah.
didn't bring that back, but
Mario Maker 1 definitely had a lot of character. And I say had because obviously the servers are shut down now
mhm,
for the Wii U. So
right.
outside of Pretendo and fan-made servers, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, it's not really playable to the general audience. Um, so yeah, it had a lot of character, like the amiibo costumes, like you said, but also like some Kaizo mechanics, things that you don't really think about mattering, but they end up being pretty unique setup wise. Like, for example, you can throw a shell at a POW, and as long as the shell is not on the ground, it'll survive hitting the POW. Doesn't happen in this game, so you can't shell jump off like falling POWs. Just one example of the many things that sort of, changed that some people weren't a fan of and just sort of detracted from character of the game. But at the same time, you have so much more stuff. You have claws, you have slopes, you have on-off blocks. On-off blocks are absolutely huge. Anyone that plays or is familiar with SMW and not Mario Maker would be able to tell you that, I'm sure, as well. Just
Yeah.
like the options that it opens up in level design.
Yeah, it's it's always cool the connection between like Mario World hacks and Mario Maker. I feel like it really like just the communities came together. Like they're very similar kind of things,
Yeah,
especially with the
absolutely very
Kaizo.
similar. A lot of crossover, but also a lot of like differences. And you've got
Oh,
those
of
people that are
course.
like, fans of one game and look down on the other.
Oh, oh no.
No, 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 in a friendly sort of way.
Okay,
Um,
that's good.
yeah, we recently dragged over Third Wall to make some Mario Maker levels, and yeah, we'll convert them yet, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just it seems like a nice kind of beginner friendly introduction to like Kaizo Mario. It's
Yeah,
for both level
absolutely.
creation and playing because it's more easily accessible and then it has a whole like level creation things. Although I know with
Yeah,
Mario World hacking, especially with Kaizo things, you can do a lot more complex stuff, but you got to have like some super in-depth background knowledge to actually get into
yeah.
that
I
side of
I
things.
don't think Mario Maker would be what it is without SMW first because Pango is so like inspirational to so many people in Kaizo creation, and he cut his teeth on Mario World. And then at the same time, Mario World ROM hacks wouldn't be nearly as big if Mario Maker didn't open that Kaizo door for so many people.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it's been nice to see both grow together in a way
Yeah,
because they're both like perfect examples of Kaizo Mario, and it's just fun to watch.
absolutely.
It's crazy the stuff you can pull off with that. So
Yeah,
I guess
and
speaking of which, like, what are the like cool Kaizo things you can do in the games? And it sounds like there are things you can do in one Mario Maker that you can't do in the others. So I'm curious where that difference lies.
yeah, there's so much. The one of the big differences between the games, and I'm actually working on a video like sort of going over this, is spinning with items. You can do that in SMW, obviously. Now, spin jumping works differently between the games, but in Mario Maker 2, you just bonk stuff. You don't actually grab it. So that's one big difference. Item drops work very differently. Like jumping on a spring in midair is super easy in Mario Maker 1. Very difficult in Mario Maker 2. I think it's 2 frames, but
Wow.
frame data is one of those weird things in Maker where we don't really know for sure, and it sort of depends on a lot of different factors. We can have
Hmm.
like a general idea,
I've
but
heard there's a lot of subpixel shenanigans that's kind of hard to like comprehend, I guess, understand what's going
yeah,
on.
and like you kind of just get a feel for it, but at the same time, you sometimes think, "Oh, I thought I hit that."
Hmm.
Um, so it's one of those weird things, but it's Kaizo, right? So at the end of the day, you have 1,000 attempts at it, and you get it eventually. Um, yeah, I mean, shell jumps are the fundamental thing, but what really has piqued my interest lately in level design is not the tricks so much as just the setups and what you can make happen all flow together rather than just piecing the individual tricks together. And there are some makers that do that extremely well. Just within the last month, I think Shino released a spliced preview of an absolutely insane level that he's not going to be beating because it's just nuts. But someone might, and yeah, I'd highly recommend checking out Shino's Twitter um, if you want to see an example of high octane, fast paced, but also creative Kaizo.
Yeah, that's the thing that's cool that I've always seen is like Kaizo, is really just hard, but it'd get old after a while, so people make these super just visually interesting
Mm-hmm.
designs on top of it being difficult. And that's where the
Yeah,
spectacle comes from, I think. That's what's super cool about it.
yeah, and you can make things really flashy while also making them pretty easy for an experienced player. And the showcases like that, for example, at GDQ, both with the ROM hack race and Mario Maker, is some of my favorite types of level design for sure.
Yeah. So so you've been doing Mario Maker for, well, I guess content side of things for about 9 years, it sounds. So
Yeah, eight 8 years playing, coming up on 9, and content I started to stream in 2017, but I didn't really start taking it seriously until 2020. when I had a little more time with the pandemic. Before that, it was just no mic, no cam, just sort of playing.
Been there.
Um, yeah, I think that's how everyone starts. But yeah, it was just cool to showcase the levels I was playing to the two people that wanted to watch. And then obviously in 2020 I started to, take things a little more seriously, wanted to up the quality of the stream, started posting to YouTube, and yeah, haven't looked back.
Yep. So in the early time, was it just streaming hard Mario Maker levels and just beating them for fun?
Yeah, pretty much. Anytime I would be playing like a level that I would be considered a grind, like over 5 hours, that's generally when I would stream. But I honestly didn't do that a lot in the first game. So it my streams are pretty infrequent. Sometimes I would do viewer levels, hop on and hey, send me some levels, and those are always fun. I've done almost 1,000 of them in Mario Maker 2 now.
Wow.
But yeah, for the most part, it was just extremely hard levels.
hmm So it sounds like that was for a few years, and then the pandemic hits, and it becomes a little more of a focus. So what'd
Yeah,
you start doing differently?
Mario Maker 2 comes out, and um the community is obviously much bigger, and there's like different sort of ways to engage with the game. You've got people that play versus, you've got people that play co-op, you've got um just different ways, different styles to play. And there are some players that always played 100 man or the Mario Maker 2 equivalent endless. Um, but yeah, Kaizo was always the one that had the most longevity because it maintained people's attention. They wanted to keep getting better. You can only play versus so much, in my opinion, without losing
Es-
your mind and getting a little bit bored.
Especially with their fantastic working internet.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad we pay for Switch Online.
Oh yeah.
Well, I say that, but maybe that'll make Switch Online last longer. So
Hmm,
maybe it is a good thing.
I guess time will tell.
Yeah.
But boy, I am tired of 1 frame per second lobbies.
Yeah, yeah, the McDonald's internet, no dedicated servers. It's rough. Especially when like most of the people playing versus are children, frankly.
Yeah.
They're not there to have like a competitive time. So if you're trying to take it competitive, like if you're trying to take it seriously and be competitive, you're gonna have a bad time. The friend lobby versus is really fun though, and you do have like map creators that make specific levels for versus. DPC is one really good example. Big Red Boys made a couple as well. And those are the real um, opportunities to have a good time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I forgot that yeah, co-op and the competitive stuff were new additions to the second game. And those are
Yeah, and
huge.
I actually think that co-op is like still super untapped.
hmm
Um, I don't know. I don't know if you know Blast. Maybe you're familiar. They've been to a couple GDQs, but we live in the same town, and we got together and made like what is probably the hardest co-op level so far in Mario Maker. Um, and it turned out really, really well. But unfortunately, just like no one can play it online, even if you have perfect connection, because starting over takes so long that you basically have to be in the same room as someone. Because waiting 10 seconds to attempt the level over again isn't going to work when the level took us, I think, 20 hours to beat, and
Wow.
we were in the same room.
hmm
Like, it's really tough to find two players that are good and close enough geographically. Um, and that's been the biggest barrier. A couple of Japanese players have taken co-op to sort of that next level as well. I'm not sure who Taka-chan made the level with, unfortunately, but they had a really cool speed, like three-person speed run. Um, you might have seen that because at SGDQ 2023, uh, Panga, the Beast, and Little Curbs all played that in combined forces to beat it. which was really, really cool. But it's like sort of that thing where they're only in the same town for a week. It's, yeah, they'll spend some time on the co-op level, but pushing it to the extent that solo Mario Maker has been pushed to is just really hard because the internet um, co-op isn't quite there yet with
Yeah,
Maker 2.
with the precision that comes with the Kaizo side of things, it does just sound impossible unless you're playing off the same system.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty much mandatory.
hmm So yeah, a bit of a shame, again, especially with Nintendo servers being the way they are, but
Yeah.
it is super cool, and yeah, I, I wish we could see more of that kind of stuff, but it's just not possible to its fullest extent.
hmm the way that most people cooperate is they make single player levels, but they make them together like in a Discord call, or they'll like split up sections. Um, we call them collab levels, and they're pretty common. Um, and that's been one really cool way that the communities come together. They've become a lot more common. Um, and with the addition of Super Worlds, which was an update to the game, you can basically make your own quote unquote ROM hack where you play uh, anywhere from 2 to 40 levels in sequence. And people have made um, like individual levels that then got put into like a collab Super World. Um, and that's been really cool to see. A couple like Team Pipe was the first one. I coordinated that one. And then Team Jamp made one, Team Precision made one as well. There's been a couple other collab Super Worlds since then, and those ones are actually the prime candidates that people speedrun like they would a ROM hack. And a little bit of a scene has popped up from time to time of people optimizing those levels. And I mean, you're familiar with Kaizo speedrunning. It's
Mhm.
really cool to see the strats that people come up with.
Yeah, that's a good segue into like how speedrunning Mario Maker works because
Yeah,
it's usually like an individual level basis, but as it turns out, there's a lot of other ways as well that it works out.
yeah, so like the standard one that everyone thinks of is just world record battles.
hmm
And on popular levels, they can get super optimized. U-Break, for example, has a ridiculous strategy where you can save a P switch from this is one of Mario Maker 1's original hardest levels. You can save a P switch from a previous section and use it to get a ton of speed, clip into the wall, and perform a frame perfect jump. And it's way faster than doing a juggle section. Um, and that world record's like super optimized, basically down to the frame. But there's a lot of other ways to speedrun that people don't necessarily think about. War Spy King did Panga Percent, where he played every single Panga level in one sitting and beat it, which that's the only completed run. So I don't know.
I was gonna
It's a
say,
speed
holy
run.
shit.
Yeah, it's a speed run technically, but he's the only one that did it, and it's more impressive that he did it in one sitting than the actual time itself.
hmm
But like, it could be optimized in theory. I do have all the levels downloaded, all of Panga's levels downloaded on my Wii U, just in case I ever want to take a crack at that category, but it's not likely.
Yeah, that sounds painful, but
Yeah, yeah, to say the least. But yeah, also Super Worlds, like I mentioned, and then Mario Maker 2 also has story mode,
Mhm.
which is the Nintendo designed levels. Um, and that category is somewhat competitive. Um, that's I think the main thing that you will see when you go on SRC is the story mode completion. But there is also the user generated stuff like Endless. In Mario Maker 1, you had a completion goal when you played 100 Man. Um, I think normal was 8 levels, or easy was 8 levels, normal was 16, expert was 16, and super expert was 6. So when you beat it, you could just time that, and that would be your speed run. Endless doesn't have that finale option, so they've just taken those same number of levels to beat from Mario Maker 1 and applied it to Mario Maker 2, so there's still that competitive aspect. In Mario Maker 1, before Super Worlds were a thing, um, Super Warp World was created, which was basically just all on one account, and you would just play through the levels on that account. And it was the same sort of collab idea where everyone made one, I think a couple made 2 levels, and it was a more traditional style game, basically, with a lot of intended harder speedrun strats. And that was a competitive speedrun for a while, although that, of course, kind of died out with Mario Maker 2. But
Hmm.
yeah, the Mario Maker content is all community driven, right? So the bounds of the game are really just how creative the players are, and that's
Yeah,
been really cool.
it's no, I love the addition of the super worlds again. It's like you're getting your own Mario games, and people can like
Hmm.
not just create a level, but create like a whole game based on their unique styles, and then obviously it makes collabing a lot easier. But that's got to be hard to track like speed runs because you can speed run a super world, and there's got to be a ton of those. So it's like,
Yeah. Generally, only the like team ones have leaderboards.
mhm.
Um, so Team Pipe World, for example, I think my time is around 56 minutes, which is last place, which is very funny considering I uploaded all the levels. Um, but first place is a sub 30, which is an insane run by Yoshi.
Wow.
Um, I think he like died maybe once and went for like all the speed strats. It was really cool to watch that time get lowered like super slowly because even though there were only 5 runners doing the entire thing, the world record like battle was really fun to watch.
Hmm. Yeah, it's cool that what seems like kind of either obscure or just not as important can still be very competitive.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Like the only way to track that thing is like, yeah, this super world's deserving of a leaderboard, and then you got to find
Hmm.
that leaderboard. It's like so out of the way, but it's still competitive, and that's really
Yeah,
cool.
no, ours is a Google sheet.
Oh, I see. I guess that helps
Yeah.
a little bit, but
Well, like you basically have to know where to look for it and then
yeah,
get the link like from the Discord. Yeah, no one's gonna stumble on it. They have to be
yeah,
looking for it.
hard to find, but once it's shared, it's a nice way to like have the community keep track of things.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. I specifically remember at one of the paces I was at, someone did a super Rubber Ross World.
Yes, Unlimited Will. That was also a really, really cool run. I think I think I saw Rubber Ross react to that, and
Yeah,
like
he
it
did
was
make a reaction video to that.
yeah, it was cool to see because like he didn't know about the strategies obviously, and he's just like, what, you can break that level that way? Um, Will had been practicing that for a long time, and like the run that he got was actually so good. Like for the marathon, I was super happy to see that. I missed it live, unfortunately, but that's just another example of yeah. In that case, it's like sort of a popular personality, so like that speed run obviously gets a little more competitive just by default. But
Sure, sure.
yeah, that's exactly the kind of speed strats that you see in literally every kind of level, no matter how well designed it is. When you have that many levels, you're bound to make a mistake somewhere that someone can exploit um, something to go faster.
Yeah, I think that particular or instance is interesting because like when you see all these worlds with like these hard levels, usually it's casual players that know exactly what can be broken. Like they understand. So it's cool when it's someone making hard levels that maybe isn't as like knowledgeable of that kind of things, and then they can react and be like, "Oh," and you can see their
Yeah,
live reaction to just like, "Oh shit,
yeah. In
whoops."
in in the case of the one that I was involved with, it was actually more. There were a couple like mistakes that I made in rebuilding because I had to go block by block, and
Mm.
the creator is thinking about all this. I'm just copy pasting basically. If I miss something, I'm not necessarily thinking about why it's there. So the very last level of the super world, for example, you can get on top of and skip most of it. But it makes for a cool speed run because you can either backtrack and play it safe and go to the checkpoint, or you can go for a pixel perfect jump,
Oh,
which
fun.
saves like 36 seconds, something like that.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and I think the world record goes for it and hits it. Just yeah. There, it's so funny how it always ends up being something ridiculous at the end of any speedrun. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like.
I'm kind of interested how pixels work in that game because, like, aren't they technically different sizes depending on the style it's in?
Um, so no, generally spikes. Well, it depends.
Okay. Yeah.
Mario's hitbox in SMB1 and SMB3 is the same. Uh, Mario's hitbox in SMW and New Soup is the same, but you have more movement options with New Soup, so you can do more things within that small area. And then 3D World, we don't know.
Yeah, that
It's just completely
that's
different.
other.
Yeah, exactly. So stuff like spikes has the same hitbox everywhere, but depending on the style, you can jump closer to a spike in SMB1 than you can in SMW. It's almost as if you're ducking in SMB1, um, but not actually ducking. You can duck now. It's very confusing.
Okay. It definitely sounds like it. So,
There's a lot that goes into the precision levels, and honestly, the precision community would know a lot more than me. But in general, ducking in SMB1 only changes your hitbox for avoiding enemies. It doesn't avoid it for hitting ceilings and spikes. So if you're ducking and you're sliding under a piranha plant, that makes a difference. If you're ducking and you jump just below a spike, you can still make the jump, but you would have made it if you hadn't ducked, basically,
okay.
which is very bizarre. And I don't think Nintendo expects people to break down the game under a microscope as much as they do. But those little quirks just it leads to something that people can force, which is interesting in and of itself.
Yeah. I guess when you break it down, like you don't, the casual person's never going to realize just how complex it is on a
Oh
technical
yeah,
level.
absolutely.
So you see this thing and it's like, yeah, that looked cool, but you don't realize like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah, yeah, and like even very experienced players can sometimes look at a level and not realize just how hard it is. I guess that's a good segue into trimming the herbs.
Oh, I see.
The most famous Mario Maker level, it feels like sometimes. Um, it was a level made in 2017, which we now know was uploaded using TAS. Um, and no one really realized until they committed to grinding it for over a month. And then it's like, wait a second, this doesn't add up. This isn't like humanly possible. Um, so yeah, like, and everyone was aware of that level. Everyone looked at it and was like, wow, that's really hard, but like not fully comprehending the scope of just how hard it was.
Mhm.
So it's not just casual players. It can be everyone that misses difficulty.
Yeah, it sounds like just that game is complex, much more than it looks. I think
Yeah,
is the main takeaway. And
yeah, for sure. Which is, I think, the key to any game having longevity,
mhm. Yeah, if there's
speed
always
speed
something to
game or
question,
otherwise.
it's always on your mind, and
Yeah,
people will
yeah.
keep thinking about it until they try to solve it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Um, but yeah, I guess we'll have to talk about this main topic, but since you brought up trimming the herds, is just 0% in general, because as you brought up earlier, Mario Maker 1 servers are gone. Rest in peace.
Hmm.
Um, so the only way to play levels is if they were downloaded somewhere or something. And I'm sure there's an archive where everything that's known about was uploaded.
Yeah, I think Pretendo is working on that. Pretendo services are online and you can upload new levels and play those levels. I think they're working on bringing in the archive of existing levels, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay, I see. But yeah, long story short, those are gone. So
Yeah.
this community was formed to just beat everything because there was a while ago where Nintendo stopped allowing new things to be uploaded well before they just shut down
Hmm.
servers entirely.
Yeah, so the timeline's really interesting because Team 0% started all the way back in 2017, not with the express goal of beating every single level. Um, it was more of a, hey, this would be a fun thing to do if we beat every 2015 level, because there were only 3 months worth of levels to go through. Um, I think there were about 15,000 of them. It was a doable task. Um, and so very end of 2018, I think it was like the final 3 days of 2017 or something. So basically the start of 2018, the team launches. It gets a little bit of traction. People are playing 0% levels on Twitch. The Beast being the most um, influential of the people playing those levels. But it was just this. It was mostly just bad levels. There were very few hard levels, except for a couple that stood out. And then even those ones, once the team broke them down and dissected every little piece of them, uh, that really helped amazing players beat them within, I think, a week. I think Z7 beat the hardest one, which was a Japanese level called Wall in Front of the Eye. I think it only took him a week after, well, we had to find a clear video because we didn't think that the actual strategy was possible and no one even bothered trying it. But someone found a clear video online and it was like, oh my god, you can do that. It was cape flight through a one tile gap of spikes,
Oh,
um,
okay.
which uh, but like not just making it to the bottom. You also then had to like lift your way back up and have enough rightward momentum to carry over um and like avoid the spike that you go under. It was very, very weird. And like we hadn't really seen anything like that at the time. People have got pretty good at it now. Um but yeah, at the time it was a completely new skill that Z7 had to learn. And I'm pretty sure he was the only clear on that level throughout all of Mario Maker history.
Hmm.
But yeah, just seeing where some players were all the way back in 2015 was pretty crazy. We also had our first experience with impossible levels because the way Nintendo started patching the game at first was um, just all the physics are patched globally, so retroactively levels that used a glitch would become impossible.
Mhm.
So there was one where you would clip into the wall with a vine and people would make like Frogger levels, or there was one where you would enter a door and you would be completely invincible, which I'm sure you can see how that would lead to impossible scenarios.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah. So our strategy for that was just report the levels, and Nintendo back in the day was very good about deleting them. Um, they actually sort of maintain that, and we don't know why
Hmm.
because it must have been an automated system, but like sometimes they didn't. There was one level. Um, this is going to be detailed, and I'm sorry,
It's
but
fun.
like there was a change to spike hitboxes that was very, very slight, and it only mattered in a couple of circumstances. But one of those circumstances was when you had two spikes, a one block gap, and the flag was there. Um, Under old physics, you would be unable to get that flag from the right hand side. You'd only be able to get it from the left hand side. So the route was to go up and all the way around and then through. Um, for whatever reason, that change was not global. That was a local patch. So the level still had those hitboxes. It was impossible to get from the. I think I might have had my left and right mixed up, but from the left hand side, you couldn't grab it in the level, but you could in updated physics. But then later in the level, there was a vine clip where you had to clip through the wall, which was globally patched. So you had this weird scenario where, like, on current physics, this is possible. On old physics, this is also possible, like on 1.0. But in the online space that this level specifically exists, it is impossible. And we reported that level like crazy. Um, I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was called Sea of Despair, and it was a water level,
Hmm.
and it was just never deleted for some reason. Like it stayed on the server right until the final day, and yeah, what eventually happened was just a hacker beat it, and our whole take on um, those kinds of levels that are impossible but won't be deleted was they don't count regardless, basically, because there's nothing we can do. We didn't condone hacking, but there were people on the team that felt, well, okay, let's give this a clear on paper so that we can say, we beat every level,
Hmm.
which people have disagreements about. I don't really care.
Fair enough.
but uh, but yeah, that was sort of our first experience with that. Anyway, that's a very long-winded way of saying once we beat 2015, most people were satisfied. And I stopped playing 0%. I was like, hey, we accomplished our goal. That's pretty awesome. There's no way in hell we'll ever beat 2016 because there are like 40,000 2016 levels. Compared to like the 3 month sample size of opportunity in 2015 where people could upload, you now have 12 months. But some people kept just plugging away at it. And as the game's life went on, it got less popular. Less people were uploading levels. People were better, so they were beating more levels. Um, and eventually in 2021, 2 years after the Switch's release, uploading was disabled. So that's around that time in March is when Ahoyo uploaded his other level, Bombs 5. Um, it is also right around the time that Braden got extremely close to beating Trials of Death, but couldn't quite pull it off. So he had to go um, he had to go back and beat it after the fact. Um, Yeah, and that is when Team 0% sort of had a little resurgence because people are like, wait, there's now a finite level amount of levels left in the entire game. The goal then became we're going to beat every level. But they didn't have a deadline. They thought they just had infinite time. Or, well, they knew eventually, but they didn't know how much time they needed. They were just going through beating levels. I was still not involved at this point. I was playing Mario Maker 2. Um, then the shutdown is announced in, I believe, October 2023, and people sort of say, okay, we have this many levels left. I think the number was 26,000, maybe 27,000, which was already way lower than I had realized. Because if you look at how many levels there were still like 35,000 levels left at the start of 2023. So in that time, with no spotlight on it, they actually managed to clear like 8,000 levels,
Hmm.
which is really, really impressive because there were not a lot of people playing. The people that were just extremely dedicated. And without their efforts, like people wouldn't have thought it was possible. So I doubt we would have done it. Um, anyway, when the server shutdown date gets announced, some people go back just to say goodbye to the game one last time. Some people are thinking we can definitely do this if we put our minds to it. I'm in the camp where I'll help out, but this isn't happening. We have so many levels left. There are so many hard levels. It's not going to happen. But despite that, I make a video calling for people to come back to the game and help out and like, hey, there's this whole effort, join the Discord. Um, and it was my first video to like actually go viral. Um, at least by my standards, I think it racked up like 300,000 views, which was insane, and it like caused a big spike in levels cleared. Um, and I almost didn't make that video. Warspy was like trying to convince me to be part of the project still, basically, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it like once a week. I'm still gonna be focused on Mario Maker 2 though. Um, And then he's like, make a video about it. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. It's not going to help, but fine, I'll release it. Um, and yeah, suddenly, not only are there a ton of people watching it, there are a ton of or participating. There are a ton of people that are interested in watching that content. And I think that audience sort of dragged a lot of other streamers back to the game, which then helped spread it even more. Um, yeah, it just sort of snowballed from there. Once we realized that it was possible and we could actually achieve this, like the momentum just kept building because more and more people started coming back because they didn't want to miss out on being a part of like a really cool thing in gaming history. Basically, if they had a Wii U, they were coming back.
Hmm.
Um, was how most people viewed it. And
Yeah.
seeing the community come together like that to say goodbye to my favorite game of all time was really, really special.
Yeah. So I'm curious how it was like kept track, like what levels aren't cleared, because you have like a
Mhm.
bunch of just casual people that just beat random levels that might appear in their endless playthroughs or whatever. Like, what keeps track if something's uncleared?
Yeah, so it was all an automated system that was originally based on the Bookmark website, because there was an actual website that kept track of all level data.
Hmm.
Um, then once that shut down, when the uploads were disabled, um, people figured out a way to get that data from Wii U's. I don't entirely know how that works, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I just know that they're smarter than me. But at that point, we started manually inputting clears because that would lower the load on the bot, but the bot still scrubbed to search for levels. Um, so yeah, we generally had people on the team submitting their clears, but every so often there would be a scrub. And if you look at the data, because all the clears are tracked and like all the stats are tracked, um, you might see like a spike one week and it's like, whoa, 3,000 levels were cleared this week. Well, no, probably not. It was probably just the bot catching those clears because they initiated a scrub.
Hmm.
Um, I know when the bot went down, um, I think it was mid January. People were sort of saving their clears in a manual way for the mod team to then input into the bot after the fact. So there's a huge spike there. Um, but yeah, it was all automated, thankfully. That's also how we know we didn't miss anything. Um, yeah,
Well, that's good. Yeah, I was just super curious how that worked, because that's impossible to just know
yeah, for sure.
without that data. So it's like,
Yeah, and it wasn't an honor system where like you submit a clear and it just gets marked as cleared. It was you submit a clear, the bot verifies the clear, it gets marked as cleared.
got it.
Yeah.
So it's all official.
Yes.
That's good. So, and this stuff was kept track on like this site where you could like find things easier, and then you can just like
So
type it down and
the site was actually a relatively late addition.
okay.
Um, it was originally all just tracked in the Discord and on spreadsheets.
Okay. I see.
Um, yeah, I think I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the person that made the site, but they just really enjoyed the project. I don't think they even played the game. They might have. I'm forgetting. But yeah, they were just interested, so they made the website. It became more presentable, and then eventually they also uploaded the level information, so you could view a level online before you tried to load it up and beat it. So you could sort of tell, oh, this has this trick. I'm not good. Like I'm not able to do that trick, but I know someone that can. Maybe let me send it to them. And it was just a time saver that way, which really helped out in the last couple weeks there when people started using the site. Because before that, you just had to like boot up the level, take it to the editor, see what you could practice and find, and sometimes you could beat the level, sometimes it was outside of your skill set, and it was very common to just hand it off to someone that was better than you. I did that a lot. I was like, okay, I can't beat this level, but I know someone that can.
Hmm.
Let me give it to them. And I would receive those levels sometimes too, and it was like, oh, something that I find fun. Um, Someone sent me a propeller level from a maker called Frosty, who was very famous, or like very well known amongst the community for his shell levels. But this one was released like very late in Mario Maker's life, so no one was really around to play it. So it just went uncleared, and I think that was my favorite clear the entire 0%, just because it was a really good level, and b the final first clear on a legendary maker's profile.
Yeah, that's cool for sure. I think we touched on it a little bit, but I'm just fully curious how you know, hacked levels, like not legitimate levels, are
Yeah.
like worked into that system, because I'm assuming as far as the game is concerned, like, oh, the level was beaten, here it is on server. How does it
hmm
know? How do you guys find out like things don't work and can do
So a
figure that
lot of it
out?
is just trial and error.
All right.
There was also sometimes we didn't know if a level was impossible because it was a hacked clear, or if it was because of some sort of patch. And there's a lot of like obscure tech that sometimes just by pure coincidence makes a level impossible. They were not trying to do anything particularly odd. It was just like, hey, here's a weird interaction um, that I want to showcase. Let me force it. And then Nintendo's like, actually, that interaction is not intended. We'll globally patch it. So it was all just experimenting. Generally, even if we suspected levels were hacked, we would still try to beat them. King Boo famously beat Beast Needle, which is an SMB1 precision gauntlet.
Hmm.
Ridiculous. Like I looked at it just to play through because I was curious, and like I couldn't hit one jump after like 30, like, you know, I would be able to do certain parts, but then there were other parts where it's like I have no idea how to approach this. And I'm not a precision expert, but like I'm not bad by any means. So we suspect that was hacked, but King Boo beat it anyway with a little bit of cheese, which was helpful. Um, a couple others are like so blatantly impossible. The flag is like completely encased in blocks. Nothing you can do.
Hmm.
We just mark that off as impossible level. Um, Nothing we can do there. And then there are others that are like theoretically possible, but you just look at it and you can tell this wasn't uploaded legitimately. Like no one is this good, this fast, this whatever. It's just beyond like the human limit. And when people do that with precision, it's generally pretty obvious. It became a lot harder with trimming the herbs because it was a very short, and people like can do like they can pretty much replicate a task a lot of the times for a short time. So,
Hmm.
maybe he just got really good at it was the thought. Um what happened, we can maybe dive into that a little bit later, but
Yeah.
um it was enough to rouse suspicions. Generally the other levels there was no ambiguity. People were like in agreement, yes, this is obviously hacked, disregard it. And then as I mentioned, the people with the hacked we use that can just like put a clear on any level they want would beat that. I should also mention that we were aware of um other levels that those players would not necessarily the same players, because a lot of them were like on our side and they would only do it for those levels. But we were aware of hackers who would clear legitimate levels illegitimately,
Mm.
and we would whenever we found those, we would mark them down and beat them again. um,
Okay.
so there was
Yeah,
this
I didn't even think
one.
about that.
Yeah, so there's this one German dude called Geisbeck, and I think he beat 700 levels illegitimately. So
Wow.
we had a whole list of just this guy, and most of the levels were SMB1. Most of them were not very fun. Fritzif beat a lot of those. Badoko beat a lot of them as well. We wanted to make sure we did this as legit as possible. Um, Not accepting the help from anyone, you know, cheating.
Hmm.
Um, Now that does lead to the question, like, is it possible that you missed a hacked clear somewhere? Yes, almost definitely. But like, you know, what can you
You
do
did
if you
what you
can't
could.
find it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like after the last level was cleared, um I found one cleared by a Swedish guy called Beck, and like I think it took me 20 minutes to beat the level. Like it wasn't you know, because those levels were so hard that a guy had to clear them. It's just like for whatever reason it was not caught by the system, because like we would uh find a hacker and then go through all their first clears, but there were just certain stipulations that would make levels fall through the cracks, and like a human would eventually have to find them. Yeah, we probably missed, if I had to guess, like 5 to 10 levels, but like we did everything we could.
Hmm.
And if those 5 to 10 levels came to the surface, they 100% would have been beaten like really, really quickly.
Hmm. Yeah. So it sounds like when it comes to like a hacked clear and the way the bot works and everything, you have to basically just find that out on your own and then mark it manually that,
Yeah.
yeah, no.
So it's sometimes it's just okay, this guy's a known hacker. But the other thing that would happen is um, maybe the world record is impossible. Like it's a 10-second speed run. It takes the full 10 seconds, but the world record is 3 seconds. Obviously, a hack's clear.
Hmm.
The other thing that could happen is if that account got banned, they didn't want hacked world records to remain. They wanted to promote fair competition for world records. So while the clear would stay on the level, the world record would be reset to 9959, um, which on levels with checkpoints you can get, because the way it tracks those is you get to the checkpoint and then any time that you spend in the level from then on is tracked. But if a level doesn't have a checkpoint, you can't get to 99 minutes, because after 8 minutes and 20 seconds or whatever, you're at a timeout.
Hmm.
So that would be another way to say, oh, this person was a hacker, they were banned. Now we have to look at all their first clears. And that's how we found Geisbeck originally, I believe. So yeah, and there was enough information on the bot that we could search for levels with that criteria, no checkpoint and a world record of that, which went a long way in us finding finding the hackers.
Hmm. Well, that's really cool detective work, I guess, to realize what
Yeah,
is and isn't legitimate.
yeah, there was this whole like subset of like, okay, what is a clear?
But yeah, so you make the announcement and it gets a lot of traction, so you have this whole community going at it, and then you kind of started making like content keeping up with the big news and announcements of what Team 0% was doing.
Yeah.
You were kind of the reporter on the scene. So,
Yeah, some people were calling me the spokesperson, the public relations. Um, I didn't start out intending, but it just sort of happened because I was, you know, beating levels, and it's like, okay, let's give a general update. Keep like the attention on it, keep the hype alive. And towards the end, the hype would just build on its own naturally. I know the mod team was flooded with requests for interviews from like gaming journalists. Um, Lots of different attention from YouTubers. Like it seemed like the whole gaming community, in one way or another, became aware of Team 0%, which was really, really cool to see. Um, yeah, eventually eventually that led to um, you know, the controversy being very publicly viewed. Um, but yeah, I guess we'll talk about this now. So I made a video. Well, okay. it had been a couple months since like people had started seriously grinding, trimming the herbs, um, and no one had really made any progress. And the really like a lot of top players sort of behind closed doors were discussing, we don't think this is legit. Um, but we didn't want to like say that publicly outright initially because like we have no proof. We don't know for sure. Like it was a long time ago. We don't really have a good idea of what the context was. But it did have people start looking into it. Um, Yoshi made a tweet originally, like stating his opinion that it was a not legit level, and that sort of like kicked off this whole Twitter storm.
Hmm.
Um, and it caused me to look into it a little bit more, and I found what to me was pretty damning evidence because there was a clip of Ahoyo who made the level 1 month prior to the upload saying, "Hey, this is a concept I'm working on. I haven't hit it yet, but I am convinced it's possible." And that suddenly gave us a timeline for how long he had to work on it, all the while playing his other hard level Bombs 5, all also working towards putting on a streaming event because like we had that timeline. We knew what he was doing at that time. He just didn't have the time to commit to it that would have been required to beat a level that hard. Um, so among other things, I put that together in a video and released my findings, and people did not like it.
Yeah, that's
um,
the internet for you.
yeah, it was basically a lot of people saying it wasn't legit. He was just really good. Um, this is like super shaky proof. Um, I ended up unlisting that video because it was like I knew what was coming and it was only going to get bigger, and like I wasn't prepared to handle that, so I unlisted it. Which I think was smart. It is still available unlisted, but uh, I don't know if it directly led to or if it had any part in it. It might have had played no part, but a couple days later, I would receive a message from Ahoyo um, saying, like, I'm putting together this group chat. All will be revealed, basically.
I see.
Um, and then at that point, we found out, okay, it wasn't legit. What is the best way to go about this? Because it is now, at this point, it is the last level in the game that is uncleared.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah. So I was like, okay, there's bounties on the level. People have put up a total of I think $5,000 for whoever cleared it.
Wow.
Like this has like real consequences now. We need to like disclose this quickly, and also like do it in the best way. Um, so yeah, that was sort of the discussion amongst the community leaders. Uh, Came forward the next day, and then um, I think when was that? I think about 2 weeks later, maybe even less. I think like a week later, um, with about 70 hours to go before the server shut down, Sanix beat the task level, the um, level that we all thought was impossible. Um, he did cheese the ending, which made it significantly easier. I think he had 3 attempts get to that part in total. Um, but yeah, just an absolutely insane accomplishment. And with all the eyes on him, makes it even more impressive to me. Cause like this is one of those like no mic, no cam streams that we sort of alluded to earlier, right? Like that's he's just at the start of his streaming career if he wants to pursue it. But like he is just starting, no mic, no cam, 500 views always
Yeah.
because it's just this moment in gaming history. And that was really really cool to see. I unfortunately missed it live, but man, that was yeah. I could gush about that clear all day.
Yeah, the story with like that last month or couple weeks of 0% is just you can't make it up. It's so
Yeah,
good. It's so
exactly.
good. It's such a good story.
Yeah, and a lot of like documentary YouTubers did a really good job of recapping it as well. Um, Abisoft's video was quite good. I really liked Henry ST's video. I think Terror also made a pretty good one. Those are the ones that I'm aware of, but yeah, just like again, the spotlight being on Mario Maker was really cool to see.
So I'm kind of curious, like more how like that kind of final push, that final month kind of area, getting really
Yeah.
close to the end, kind of played out. Like just like kind of the short history of like some of the levels that were like holy crap, and the
Mhm.
realization of
Like, oh
how
my
the
God,
finale is going to
we're
play
gonna
off.
pull this off.
Yeah.
Um, it was sort of interesting because it was all clouded by like before the whole um TAS accusations and like controversy, it was all sort of clouded by like I don't know if we can pull this off because this one level is so hard. We're definitely going to beat everything else, but what about this one level? Because we did realize how hard it was at that point. Um, a lot of the other levels that were like, oh no, no one's going to beat this, it's over. They had been already cleared because there was so much attention on them. Chaco, who is the best new suit player of all time, most people would say, had a 500-second speed run that is just ridiculously precise. Um, but a guy by the name of Roy Koopa managed, like, figured out a way to skip half the level. So he, I think he beat that in like November or December or like pretty early on in the cause. And that was sort of a moment for me like, whoa, that was like, in my opinion, the definitive hardest level. I wasn't aware of how hard TTH was at that time. Like, in my mind, that was the biggest obstacle standing in our way. And what sort of became the quote unquote biggest obstacle just kept falling. And the dominoes just kept falling faster and faster and faster to the point that, like, I would look at a level and think, oh my God, this is insane. It's over. And then like a couple days later it would be cleared. I'm like, okay, I guess it's not. And eventually that mindset shifted to it doesn't matter how hard it is. If we're working together to route and get the best people playing it, nothing can stand in our way because players just were so much better than they were back then. Whenever the level was uploaded, like 2018, yes, the skill gap is huge. Um, but even like 2021, players are a lot better. And yeah, it's crazy how fast people improve. And I actually wasn't able to beat a single level in the final 100 levels. Um, like I was really trying my hardest to, but I just kept taking too long, and eventually someone would beat it because everyone was sort of competing. It was a shared goal, but obviously you're competing to get there first because there's no glory in second clear. um, yeah, the dominoes just started to fall, and I don't think we went a single day without clearing a level. Like even to the point where there were 10 levels left, there was at least one clear every single day, which is really insane because oftentimes it was multiple days worth of grinding to beat a level. It just sort of so happened that someone would beat one on each separate day.
Well, it all works out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think the last SMW level, if we're not including TTH, which most people don't think we should because of the circumstances, was like just a consistency level called Muncher Stairs. And all
Hmm.
it was a diagonal staircase underwater where you had to go through one tiles of munchers. And that was the whole thing. And I think you had to do it 360 times.
Oh my god.
So just like clearly it's uncleared, not because it is very hard, but it's uncleared because it's awful and miserable to play. But people would grind it for multiple hours a day.
And it got there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
it all resolves in this story. That's awesome. Where, yeah, I'm on the stance where like it does suck that you know it was found to be not a real clear. So it's like the second to last cleared level should have been like the it's over, and it kind of
yeah,
wasn't. And it
exactly.
sucks, but I mean, the last level's called The Last Dance, right?
Yeah, it's
You can't
poetic.
make that shit up. And then that level, Trimming the Herbs, was cleared before the server shut down anyway. So
Yeah.
it's like it all just works out.
Yeah, it does kind of suck that Yamada didn't get the recognition for beating the very last level. The Beast very nearly beat that level. I think he died 2 or 3 seconds from the end. He went in the wrong door.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's too bad that that clear didn't quite get the. It got the recognition from the community, of course, because second last is still a huge deal. But it didn't quite get the recognition from everyone outside of the direct Mario Maker community. Because in a vacuum, the TAS level being beaten by a human is a really cool story,
Hmm.
and like that's awesome. But just it wasn't in a vacuum. It affected this other thing, which is kind of too bad. But I mean, what can you do, right?
You got to find the positive in
Yeah,
it, and like,
yeah, exactly. And there are a lot of positives. Like it's a really amazing achievement that Sanix did.
oh
And
yeah,
and if some people like a lot of casual people didn't quite fully understand the full context of hacked clears, that sort of thing. Fair enough. It does seem like the last level. It wasn't the only level tasked. We just didn't beat the other ones because they were tasked.
hmm.
Like
But yeah,
I think mid-air shell jumps, I'm sure you're familiar with.
yeah,
Um
I've seen them.
they're frame perfect tricks. But someone had like a macro to just do that. So they did 81 in a row. But like admitted to it being a macro and like openly talked about it. So like we just ignored that level. And yeah. Without that context, I can see how the casual viewer would go, what do you mean it's over? You gotta beat that last level. Don't back out now. But it's like, well,
It was
levels have to
cleared
be beaten.
illegitimately, so it doesn't
Yeah, people
count.
have to beat their levels to upload them. If they circumvented that, like we should be able to circumvent the level.
Hmm.
But it makes for a great story.
Yeah, the ending's perfect. Last level's Last
Yeah,
Dance. Trimming the Herbs was cleared before the shutdown. Like, it's perfect.
yeah.
Perfect ending.
Couldn't script
Minus
it
the,
better.
and I guess the little bit of controversy sprinkled in there just again makes the story all better. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but yes, so when that all resolved, just I know you talked a little bit about people were making videos about it, but what was just like the general consensus of the finale, either from the community or just in general?
Yeah. I mean, the community, it can't be understated. Like just the sheer volume of levels. Like yes, at the end it was about achieving clears on hard levels, but like there are people that literally cleared over 5,000 levels by themselves. And like yes, those were mostly easy levels, but like it's still just a slog to go through that much and dedicate that much time to routing and beating those levels. Like seeing that number go down really meant something because it made it seem so much more attainable. And if we didn't have those people pushing that number so much lower, because my strategy was always focus on the hard levels. We have more casual players, who can take out the trash. And yeah, maybe I could beat that in like 2 minutes, but they can beat it in 10 minutes. And that is like my time is better spent playing something that they could never beat or like would take an extremely long time beating, right? So that was sort of my philosophy. But the people that were moving that number down, I think helped bring a lot of people back to the game because they realized, oh, hey, this number is actually getting pretty low. Let me help out. Like Fiona, for example, is a really talented Mario Maker player, but she was doing like Yoshi's Island speedrunning and Mario Maker 2, and like not really involved in Team 0%. Comes back, beats like I think 4 out of the last 20 SMW levels,
Hmm.
and like helps out so much with levels that, you know, would have taken a lot of people a really long time, but she just was able to knock it out because she's got mad skills.
So, do you know, like, when all is said and done, like, how many levels were completed in Mario Maker?
um, I think over a million.
Wow.
It so it that's sort of an interesting question because levels get deleted.
Mhm.
Um, both uncleared and cleared. So I know for a fact that there were more than a million levels cleared, or sorry, more than a million levels uploaded, but the uploader can delete the level if it doesn't get enough stars. If it doesn't get 1 star after a certain amount of time, it's going to get deleted.
Hmm.
And if it contains glitches, it's also going to get deleted for the most part. So I know over a million were uploaded. I don't know if more than a million were cleared. But it, like most levels that were deleted, probably had a clear just because that's the way it worked. Like most of those levels were designed by children and
Hmm.
would be able to beat by children. And we had an army of children that didn't even know they were helping.
Hmm.
um, and yeah, that's actually one of the funny things about like this cause reaching so many people is like, oh hey, I played this game when I was a kid. I guess that means you played my trash, and I get that comment all the time. And it's like, yeah, we probably did.
Hmm.
um, but yeah, over a million levels uploaded in the game, which is pretty cool.
And in theory, all of them were beaten by someone.
Yeah, either beaten by a player or beaten by Nintendo. Um, you
True,
so
true.
so that's actually what's really interesting in Mario Maker 2 as well, because obviously Team 0% is continuing to work through that. I haven't helped out so much yet, but I plan to you know continue to do my part once I'm back playing that game. Um, but in Mario Maker 1, your upload slots were determined by how many stars you got. So you started with 10 levels that you could upload. Once you got 50 stars, you could then upload 10 more. And then once you got 100 more, it was like exponential. Eventually, you could only upload 100 levels if you had 5,000 stars, which is a lot. Like
Hmm.
most 99% of people never even got close to that. So they only could upload so many levels. In Mario Maker 2, you can upload 100 levels per profile just by default.
Hmm.
So the possibility to have way more levels is there. And not only that, Team 0% is now also working against the fact that you cannot edit downloaded levels. So in Mario Maker 1, you could like search for hidden blocks or like go to a setup and make a practice setup so you could get consistent. Um, Mario Maker 2 doesn't have that luxury, so there's a fan made site that you can like search for hidden blocks on your web browser, but it's not accessible to everyone. So there's a lot more garbage that the team has to sort through. And then if they want to practice level, they have to rebuild it block by block, which sucks.
Hmm.
So Mario Maker 2 is going to be a whole different challenge for Team 0%. We'll see if they can pull anything off. I personally have my doubts, but hey, I also doubted them in Mario Maker 1, so time will tell.
Yeah, and that's gonna be hard because there's servers are still up. You never
Yeah,
know when the end of that will be.
yeah.
Maybe it never comes. Who knows?
I mentioned Chaco earlier, who had that like level that I consider to be the hardest in the game, that was cheesed and fell. He has a Mario Maker 2 level as well, which is even harder.
Oh, great.
Yeah, someone's been close to beating it, but no one's beat it yet.
Well, at least currently there's no known deadlines. So
Yes,
hmm.
yeah, exactly. Unlimited time.
Yeah, we'll see when Nintendo decides to shut those down, but might not be for a long time. So that's good. Um,
Pika's saying in the chat 193 got to the last 30 seconds, which, yeah, I saw that clip on Twitter. I didn't know who it was, though. But 500 hours into the grind. Yeah, okay. Now that puts into perspective just how good Choco is.
that is all on one level, huh?
Yeah.
You gotta respect the dedication, but good lord,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
so much
absolutely.
time.
Yeah, you could get a 454 in that time probably
Yeah,
in
now I'm like
SME1.
thinking what my hours of playtime and any percent is.
I'd be really curious actually
I know
to
my
see how
attempt
long.
count is like 21,000, but at the end of the day, attempts can be over in like 15 seconds, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really mean anything. I don't know. Yeah, total playtime is not something I've ever cared about tracking myself because it's
Yeah,
like
fair enough. It's
it's
probably
just
across multiple different
it just
consoles and
it
stuff
just
as
make me
well.
sad. But no.
I can understand that for sure.
But yeah, for real, it's just in speedrunning. For me personally, it's not an important statistic, so I
Yeah.
it's not something I would have an answer for. But I do
Yeah.
wonder how it compares to something like that.
The Switch will track both the Wii U and the Switch track your hours, so I know that
Mm.
I have roughly 5,000 hours in Mario Maker, which is a lot.
Yeah, but makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's the whole 0% story. Is there any like part of the whole team that we didn't talk about that's like worth bringing up?
Um I mean, there's always those like little stories, right?
Hmm.
Um, but no, I think that covers the broad strokes of it. Um, there's lots of other stories that people can sort of look to in YouTube documentaries or just looking at the levels that people were playing because a lot of it was documented. Um, if you want to check out the statistics, is smmbeatenyet.com is the place to go. That's the website we were referring to earlier. And that's where you can sort of track the team's progress with a couple, spikes for whatever reason. But the data's all there.
All right,
So yeah, that
that's
that
cool.
wraps it up.
So getting into the Mario Maker 2 side of things now, I know you talked about the 0% stuff. Something I found interesting, we didn't talk about it yet, getting into the speedrun topic of things, is they added like a whole speedrunning thing to that game, the Ninja speedrun
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
which
How,
I
how did
think
I
is
forget
just
about
super
that?
cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, the Ninjas, unfortunately they're not running them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But
Rest
those
in
were
peace.
awesome. Yeah. There were 21 in total. Um, and it was sort of this like really cool acknowledgement from Nintendo being like, hey, there's an interest in people going fast.
Mm-hmm.
And they generally would feature power-ups in unique ways or just um they were actually really well designed because um they're like it's hard to make a Mario Maker level where you can always make progress and not just like fail and have to start over. Um but they were able to do it in also a way that was very satisfying to do quickly. The first one was like sort of rough. It was just like slope mechanics, which uh, like anyone could pretty quickly get a time within like 300ths of a second of the world record. But then the world record had like so many frame perfect, pixel perfect, uh, like you have to crouch on this frame, you have to uncrouch on this frame, and you have to corner boost, which is like hitting your head on a block. But because they didn't want clipping, it would like slightly push you out of the block, and it would save less than a frame. But like that matters on the
Less
timer.
than a frame.
Less than a frame, yeah, because the timer was specific to less than a frame.
Okay.
Um, so I think you combine like three of those and it saves one frame if you do them well. But because the timer was constantly running, um, yeah, it like actually mattered.
Yeah.
um, they got a little more. Um, they kind of found their footing after the P balloon level, I would say, because, and this is sort of related to like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Super Monkey Ball controversy that like has sort of popped up lately with pause buffering.
Oh, I know about pause buffering. I didn't realize it was a controversial topic.
Oh, well, there is just this like, I mean, I watched one video on it. I'm not an expert, but
Got it.
basically a lot of really old runs were like, oh, hey, these weren't performed legitimately. They were pause buffered, but when you use the replay file, it just shows it going. So it was like
Oh, I
not
see.
really super detectable.
I just meant like in like a full game run, they use that a lot because
Oh, right, yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Um, anyway, the world record for the P balloon was done by pause buffering the
Oh,
entire level.
okay.
Um, yeah, Pika's got the numbers there. Five
Got it.
five minutes to beat a 38-second level, which just seemed really anti-competitive. So they actually fixed that going forward. Um, where if you pause, you lose control of your character for about a second afterwards.
Mm. Okay.
But only in the ninjas. You can still do it in regular levels, but people aren't as concerned about that. And generally, people don't pause buffer that we know of
Hmm.
playing the game. And like if they do, it's a precision level and it's like, pretty accepted in this game. But yeah, there was also the 35th anniversary Ninja,
Hmm.
which was really, really cool because Nintendo actually put a prize for the top players.
Yeah, those
So
collectible coins.
yeah, which was really awesome. They sort of messed up like the distribution of like how it was gonna go down. Like it was the top 100 in Japan, top 10 in South Korea, top 10 in Oceania, which I think was just Australia and New Zealand. I think we're the only two countries eligible.
Hmm.
Um, top 100 in Europe, and then for some reason top 35 in North America. So like North Americans
Sure.
kind of got screwed.
Rip.
Um, yeah, like I wanted my coin, and I probably would have got it if it was top 100, but I wasn't good enough to be top 35. Um, a couple people actually really impressed me um, in like just their A, commitment to the grind, and B, like actually being able to pull it off. I would like that sort of put Shoujo on my radar as like, oh wait, holy shit, she is a top player. Um, and then Andrew G,
Hmm.
like doesn't even play Mario Maker, but came to Mario Maker 2 and got top 35 North America. I was like, holy shit, this guy's the goat.
He truly is. Yes.
Yeah. Um, so that was wild. Yeah, I unfortunately didn't get a coin, but it was really cool to see um, everyone dissect the level like that and have like a speedrunning competition um, like endorsed by
Officially. Yeah.
Nintendo. Yeah, like that
Super
was really
cool.
awesome. I guess Koopa freerunning like sort of exists in Odyssey, so like they sort of see the demand for it,
Hmm.
but like in an official capacity was really amazing to see. And the first place finisher for that um, was a player that was not active in Mario Maker 2, but was widely considered the best Kaizo player in Mario Maker 1. So like seeing him return was also really cool. Yeah, there were just a lot of storylines with the ninjas that like
Oh yeah.
you didn't really expect. When they first dropped, it was always really cool just to see people developing strategies, and that's when you could get the screenshot like really easily of like number one in the world. You just had to sort of figure out a strategy and optimize it before anyone else did. So that became like sort of a YouTube content race
Nice.
among the top players. So like you would hop on and you would be like, "Oh, everyone's streaming. There must be a new ninja."
Yeah, the competition at a high level for those were always just super just fun to see.
Yeah,
And of course you
I
always
never
see
really
like the
did.
community members you know about, usually at the top.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a whole Ninja Discord dedicated to like developing strategies. And the other thing I should mention is people continue to optimize them, obviously, after the competition ends. So even though you don't get first place, it still tracks it after the fact.
Hmm.
So there's a whole Ninja Discord dedicated to it. Um, there's actually been some tool assisted runs, which are like performed separately, that are really, really cool too. Um, what was I going to say? But yeah, the Ninja Discord was very dedicated. I think King Boo had like the most world records, but there were a couple people that shared in being first place.
Hmm. Yeah, I assume because their levels were fairly short, but at a
Yeah,
top level, you're eventually gonna get to like just they're gonna be like frame perfectly tied. Now I know their
yeah,
timer works a little more precise than frames, it sounds like, but still it's gonna be
yeah. So the
close.
timer in the game itself does that. So like they didn't have to add anything to it. Um, but you would still just like whether or not you get to the flagpole, like in a like frame perfect speed run, for example, where like you hold right the entire time.
Hmm.
There's nothing you can do to improve. That's when it matters. It's like reaching the flag, but the timer is more precise than that. Um, what I was gonna say is, even after they like retroactively banned pause buffering, someone did beat the People Who Ninja. Um,
Oh, cool.
and I think yeah, so that was pretty cool to see as well. Like the dedication to, um, like mastering that power up to get the new world record. I think Gibble was the first one to do that. Um, I'm not sure how many people have beat that one after the fact, but yeah, just the endorsement from Nintendo is, I think, my favorite part of the whole Ninja story, and I hope it leads to, you know, future speedrunning competitions for more than just 2D Mario.
Yeah, I it seems like Nintendo has been caring more and more about speedrunning in an official capacity, which is really cool. Like again, the Ninja, they have the Mario Odyssey Koopa free running, and now they're releasing their NES what are they calling it? Championship NES series or whatever, where it's like literally just speedrunning NES game, doing a task in an NES game, and it's tracked on leaderboards.
Oh, really?
It's a
I
whole
wasn't
game
aware of that.
about NES speedrunning. It's literally
That's
marketed as
awesome.
that. Yeah, it's so cool.
Wow. I gotta look into that. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
NES Championship Edition. No, Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. I think it's called that.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly. I think it's something like that. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
I've never played an NES game other than SMB1, so
Well, you chose the right game, so that's good. But
yeah, I think wow, how long did it take me? It was a quote unquote speed run, but it was,
yeah,
like 45 minutes.
well, that's pretty fucking good, I think. So
Yeah, it was weird to get used to the physics, and then like I would go to I think I went down the pipe in that I think it's 4-2, the one with the vine wrong warp.
yeah, yeah.
But I was just like looking at the clear video, not understanding why is this pipe not taking me to the
Oh, you didn't know it's a wrong
I didn't
warp.
I
That's
didn't know the tech. I'm like,
hilarious.
okay, I guess I gotta find the other way. So I found the vine.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you played that well after Mario Maker stuff. Were you like surprised how different the physics were? Were you like expecting them to be kind of similar?
Yeah, I was. So the context for that was like, it was a bunch of Mario Maker people that were gonna race beating SMB1, SMB3, and SMW all in a row.
Got
And like we're Kaizo players. Like this is gonna be no problem.
it.
And then we all got our asses kicked. I think one person made it through SMB3. I did not make it through SMB3. A couple people didn't even make it out of SMB1.
Oh my god. These are any percent too, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah. Like you can warp.
oh my god. Yeah, it's crazy how different the physics are. Um,
Yeah, I found SMB3 to be the easiest to control, but like I just like we didn't really prepare. We didn't like look for the wrong warp stuff. We were just like, oh, we'll figure it out.
this will be easy. We got it.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, we were fools.
Yeah, well, that's just something I've always known when I tried Mario Maker. I'm like, yeah, these physics are not at all the same. So
Yeah, it's definitely more comparable to NSMB Wii.
yeah,
Um,
I've heard that the styles, no matter what they look like, they're all kind of based on New
yes,
Super Mario Brothers Wii's kind of
yeah.
physics
Which I
stuff.
think they had to do because like going like having a casual player experience four different like movement physics would be really really weird.
Hmm.
Um, it would be kind of cool to make an actual SMB1 level, but like that's what ROM hacks are for.
Yeah, of course. No, I get why they did what they did. Um,
Yeah.
Although it's interesting, then they do 3D World, which is entirely its own whole set of stuff.
Yeah, the movement is like you kind of go through the air in the same way, but like the ground, the big difference is you slow down initially on the ground and then speed up,
Hmm.
which is like how that works in that game.
You
So
get like a boost if you're running for long enough.
yeah, so you can build up P speed, but like building it, like if you're running for a very short amount of time, like when you land initially and start running, it's actually slower than if you were in the air. So speedrunning 3D world levels has been really, really interesting because there's just all this like sort of stuff that you can do. One odd little quirk that can save like I think a frame is because you're so slow walking, it's actually faster to like crouch and walk forward for the
Hmm.
first frame and then do like a long jump to get up to full speed. So you'll see people start like their speed runs by ducking for a single frame and then off they go. And it's
Hmm.
like ever so slightly faster.
Wild.
Just a lot of weird quirks in that engine.
Yeah. And to this day, I still don't understand why they made this whole like other styles and made one. It's just, yep.
Are we putting on our conspiracy theory hats?
Does it have to do with Mario 2?
um, yeah, but also Odyssey was my
Oh,
theory.
interesting. All right.
Because like Odyssey, there are those like little 2D sections where you still have full control of his 3D movement. Like think the underwater sub area in Wooded Kingdom, for example. Like
Yeah,
Mario's
yeah.
existing on a 2D plane, but he can still throw Cappy, he can still wall jump, it all works the same.
Hmm.
Um, I would love to see that in Mario Maker 3, if there is a Mario Maker 3. I think that would be so cool. But yeah, apparently SMB2 was going to be another theme released later, but COVID happened and they like cut development costs, so it just became a power up instead.
Okay.
Which the power up's
I see.
cool.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
I figure I agreed with the conspiracy that the mushroom was supposed to be a full-on
Yeah.
style change, but
Yeah. I think I don't know how much is like conspiracy and how much is rumor or how much is like, you know, I don't know where that started from. So it might be reliable, it might be not.
mhm. But yeah. I mean, it is cool. They did the whole thing with Link where he's got an entirely
Hmm.
unique move set kind of thing.
Yeah.
That yeah,
Yeah,
the
that the
Mario
Link power
2
up
is unique.
is one of my favorites. And it actually works out because Link has a bunch of really cool interactions with SMB2 as you switch between the power ups. You can like throw a bomb as Link, collect the SMB2 mushroom, and then stand on that bomb
Wow. That's sick.
like before it blows up. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with that, which is why I'm almost glad that it was a power up because for Kaizo specifically, it led to power up switching, which is awesome.
Yeah, okay. It all works out, I guess. That's cool. It just looks so weird seeing other styles and it's just permanently
Yeah, for
one
sure.
other style.
Yeah.
But oh well, what can you do?
Yeah.
Um so I want to kind of lead into GDQ because Mario Maker's been a huge staple. Most
Yeah.
events, like there's always a huge relay or something.
Hmm.
And have you only been in one and that was last
Yeah,
year?
so I've only been in the SGDQ 2023 relay. Um
Represent.
yeah. There was no relay at SGDQ this year, although I think Carl is doing like a glitch race or like a troll level race, I think. So a little different, but I think it's only 2 to 4 people racing. I'm not too sure. It was sort of separate.
Hmm.
Um, I'm looking forward to watching that for sure. I think that's going to be really entertaining, especially with how creative the troll makers are. And it's going to be less about, uh, the Kaizo maneuvering and more about outsmarting, which is its own skill set. I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, watching the original, I think it was AGDQ, was it 2016?
It's been a long
Um,
time, yeah.
yeah, that first race with like Trihex, um, I think Graham Pooh Bear and Carl and a bunch of people. Chronic basically built his Twitch partnership off of that event because he was just so clutch. Um, it was really amazing to be a part of that in 2023, and I also realized just how hard it is to play on stage.
Yeah.
I like that entire like sort of in the lead up to it. I was like, oh man, I could be playing better than these guys, and it's like, oh no, actually I couldn't. Because like it's totally different playing in your room on your own setup with no pressure versus like people behind you yelling and you're like, oh my god, I know people are watching online, I can't screw up, I can't screw up. Gets in your head.
Yeah,
At
not
least
to
at least I
mention
found it that way.
you guys are moving around constantly because it's a relay,
Yeah,
so you've got that
yeah,
going
you're
as well.
passing the controller back and forth, you're not really able to build muscle memory. um but yeah, like I mean, the level creators did such an amazing job, and like they always do an amazing job, but especially in 2023, it was so flashy and it led to so many amazing moments that like I will remember forever. um yeah, I really want to go to another GDQ. Unfortunately I couldn't do this year. um i I just got back from Japan. Actually, I was there for like a week and a half. And I really wanted to do that trip, and like, opportunity presented itself. Gotta take those when they come up. But yeah, hopefully next year. Or if there's an AGDQ, I'll definitely be trying to participate in any Mario Maker event that I can. Or I'll probably just, even if there's not a Mario Maker event, I'll probably go because I'm pretty close. I can drive down, um, and in 8 hours I'll be there. So
Yeah, they're fun events for sure, but
yeah, this time I won't get COVID, hopefully.
that's the dream. Um, I think I've
Yeah.
only gotten COVID from a speedrunning event once, and that was like it wasn't even GDQ. It was like early when things started opening up, so it made sense.
Mm,
But
right. Yeah. No, it kind of went through the Mario Maker people a little bit.
oh, okay.
Um, yeah, I think most people got sick. There's a picture of us in the hotel lobby, like, not wearing our masks, and it's like, oh no, we were the super spreaders. Because like
For shame.
every single person in the picture was sick the next day.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But
Yeah.
luckily, I think things have gotten better, so
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
little
for sure.
harder. Hopefully, at least. Um, but yeah, that was the one you were in the special one where it was like kind of showcasing unique, never before seen kind of things in Mario Maker. I remember something like that.
Um, I mean, there were a couple glitches, if that's what you mean.
I think so. I remember like some teleportation and
Yeah,
some.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, it
Okay.
was that.
That was that thing for sure. I had seen that before. I had played a cape level and a shell level that used it, by DPC and Lenny. DPC, who is actually a maker for GDQ as well. So like everyone was expecting him to have the teleportation level,
Hmm.
and then it completely threw us off when it was not that one. Um, like we sort of knew teleportation was coming because it was like a sort of recent discovery. It was a really big deal.
Yeah.
Um, Donkey Mint made a really cool level where if the power up or if the item was in the semi-solid, the on-off state would change. So like you had to throw an item up to get it into semi-solid so you could land and then catch it again. I had never seen that mechanic before, or since actually. Or no, Kelly has the level with it. But um, yeah, it was like those showcases are always so cool, just experiencing the tech and like figuring stuff out live on the fly and like communicating with your teammates too. Um, like I one of the moments that was like my favorite for me was like Curbs was on a run in the teleportation level, and um, we saw on the other side that Panga was like ahead of him. We knew that we were gonna have to catch up. So I'm watching what Panga's doing and just relaying it to Curbs. Probably not even being helpful because I'm just yelling like crazy. I'm super hyped. Like he can see what's in front of him. He's a good player. He knows how to read the level. But despite that, I'm just like totally backseating. Um, and Panga gets to the end like maybe 10 seconds before us, and he misses two shell jumps. So I'm just saying to Curbs, it's shell jump timing, Curbs. It's shell jump timing. And he nails the shell jump. I don't like again, no credit is to be given to me. It was all Curbs. Yeah, I don't think I was helping. Anyone that looked at it and I was a good player could see that it was shell jump timing. But I just like totally popped off. It was an amazing moment. The crowd loved it. It was like a buzzer beater on top of that as a comeback. Uh, yeah, like that level could not have gone any better at GDQ. Like in terms of hype and content, absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen a few like live, like they switch between like Mario Maker kind of stuff and the Mario World hacking kind of
Mhm.
stuff a
Yeah,
lot.
and I think the SMW relay is happening again this year at 20 at SGDQ, right? I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure.
I don't remember, but yeah, they usually like cycle on and off between them. So
Hmm.
there's a lot, again, a lot of crossover between those two. But yeah, those relays are always like, they're always like, the last day, these, and they're super just
Hmm.
crazy hype in the room. So
Yeah,
they're just fun. And that
yeah.
one,
I got a
especially,
couple of people. I got a couple of people to watch GDQ for the first time ever, including my parents.
nice. Yeah, the tech that was shown off, uh, like I was saying, the teleporting, it's stuff that especially casuals have never seen before, at
Yeah,
least.
yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, oh, super
Even
eye
like
opening.
even the most experienced players, they might have seen it before. They don't know how it works. Like
Hmm.
I don't know how it works. I know that it has something to do with a glitched POW and a claw and like going through blocks until you find a like half solid one. That's
Hmm.
roughly what I know. I don't know anything else. And that sort of is emblematic of Maker in general, how like people will go so in depth in their creations and the mechanism is off screen. So you don't really know what's happening. You're just there enjoying it. And I love that.
Yeah, I remember because, so much of the levels were glitch heavy that it's like, all right, everyone, download these levels while you can.
Yeah,
Nintendo's
yeah,
quickly
exactly.
gonna get rid of them.
After the race, I like immediately went to my Switch. I think my Switch was being used in the bonus incentive like multiplayer
That's right. There
competition.
was multiplayer thing.
Yes, so I immediately got my Switch, and instead of like talking to people, I was just like download, 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 download.
And are all of those levels deleted?
uh, the teleportation one is deleted. I think the Goomba one is still up.
Oh,
Donkeyman's item one is actually not a glitch.
oh,
It's
cool.
it's an intended mechanic that he just uses in an incredibly creative way. Um, so yeah, it's still up. That was probably my favorite level, even though I didn't get to like see the completion of it on um our initial playthrough. I obviously played through them all afterwards.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, a lot of there's also like a screen wrap one, right? Where like the thwomp would go off the screen one way and come back on the screen the other way, or like anything like that. And while that looks like a glitch, it's actually just clever mechanics making it look like that's what's happening. It's a different shell, it's a different thwomp,
Mm.
all intended mechanics. So even though it's like appearing to be something funny going on, it's all above board and Nintendo doesn't do anything about it, which is
But
good. They
teleporting,
shouldn't.
on the other hand,
Yeah,
can't have
teleporting's
that.
it doesn't just look like you're teleporting. You are teleporting.
Yeah, can't have that. Nintendo shutting that down right away.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Um, what they'll do generally, creators of those levels, is they will upload it and delete it themselves shortly after, so people like have that window to download them. So like, I'm not sure if the creator of that level has done that for that level specifically, but I know the general community does that for glitch levels.
Okay.
There's a little bit of like streamer privilege where you get to like DM them and be
Mhm.
like, hey, can you do this? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Um, I think I remember. I think it was last GDQ. There was like a Mario Maker like full on glitch showcase.
uh yes, that was AGQ, like
Hmm.
the one that Carl did.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was also really cool. I'm not super involved in the troll community, and that's like most of what the glitch showcase like those people. So I
Okay.
actually don't know any like behind the scenes info. I just sort of watched it like everyone else and like, had my mind blown.
Okay. Fair
Um,
enough.
because the troll community is really what pushes the boundaries on that sort of stuff. It's generally not used in Kaizo levels that much. Like the troll community is what found teleporting originally. That just happened to be like high action, very, it lends itself well to Kaizo gameplay. So
Yeah.
we kind of adopted it. There's a lot of stuff that like we us P brains have no idea how it works.
It's fair enough. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious, does because you said with Mario Maker 1, if like glitches happen, they would retroactively kind of try to patch them out. Do they still do that with Maker 2?
So they got better as they went in Mario Maker 1, and now they're almost perfect in Maker 2, where old levels have old physics, and that is the rule. There's like there's two examples I can think of in Mario Maker 2 where it's globally retroactively changed. And that is depending on what character you used, you used to be able to shoot fireballs at a slightly different angle. So like there were some setups where only Toad or only Toadette would be able to hit a bomb, say, with a fire flower.
Hmm.
That was globally patched, and levels that forced that specific character are no longer possible. The other one, really weirdly, is the story mode exclusive Super Ball power up. So you need to
Oh,
beat
yeah.
story mode to get it. Um, and it acts like a fire flower, but instead of having gravity, it just shoots down and then up, and then will rebound off a couple of walls. Um, it can activate POWs and P switches, and it used to be able to activate P switches from the side, but now it can only activate them from on top, which
Hmm.
is ultra specific. But it made two levels in 2019 impossible, and we know about them because 0%
Hmm.
beat every level in 2019 in Mario Maker 2, except for those two, because they
Well,
can't.
yeah.
So same sort of rules apply. In general, though, they are much better in Mario Maker 2 about not retroactively making levels impossible.
Hmm.
Like
I see.
those two ultra niche mechanics are the only things I can think of.
That reminded me when you said that you need to do something in story mode to kind of unlock that. There's like story mode exclusive uh
Items, yeah.
items. Yeah.
It's really strange. There's like toads that will follow you around, and if they get hit by an enemy, like you kind of have to go save them. Which would have been kind of neat. And then there's also stone blocks, which like
Hmm.
weigh you down and make you run slower and jump lower. It's in like one level only, and I don't know why they didn't. Like honestly, like it doesn't seem like a great item. Like I'm not thinking, oh man, we need this item in Mario Maker 3. Like no,
But
but it's
just
just weird
why?
that
Yeah.
yeah, it's weird that you have something in story mode, then don't give it to the players.
Yeah. It's just really weird to lock it behind one level in your story mode. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Odd decision all around, but eh. It's not what I'm most upset about.
Yeah,
That's
no.
for sure.
And then I guess they heard that people don't like escort missions, so I guess that's why it's locked
I
behind
mean, hey,
story mode.
that's true. That is true.
But yeah, it's just interesting that there are unique things just to that because I feel like most people that get Mario Maker 2 don't play the story mode. they're focusing on like making levels and playing other
Yeah,
people's content.
I so I unlocked everything, but I didn't actually play it.
Hmm.
The levels are easy, right? So
Yeah.
like anyone can pretty much do that. Um, I this is really funny. I presented it to my my ex-girlfriend. It was like, "Hey, this is something we could do together," and I had her beat story mode for me, so I can unlock everything.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, because I was just so boring.
It's not good enough for you, not hard enough.
uh, yeah, it was too much time sink, but it was fun to guide.
Fair enough. It all works out.
Yeah,
D- so the Super Ball is allowed in like normal course maker,
yeah.
right?
So the Super Ball and the 3D World Builder Suit are the two things that you can unlock in story mode and bring into regular course world. And the
Okay.
Builder Suit's um, pretty interesting. The ninja that they made around it was like had some really interesting speed strats. But again, in general, it's not something that makes or breaks the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't necessarily need it to make a level, but like if you're dedicated enough to the game that you want to make a builder suit level, you're probably dedicated enough to play story mode. So
Got it. And then you can still play levels online that feature those without having unlocked
yes,
them.
yeah, yeah.
So that's good at least. You just
Which
need to
is
play
I
story
think
mode to
how like
use them.
if they were to ever do DLC, that's how they'd probably do it. Like you can access it in course spot if you know
Hmm.
buy the DLC, and then anyone can play it is how I would imagine they would do it. We've
Which
been
probably
asking for
explains why
DLC
they
for a
haven't
long
done
time.
it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. People have wanted it, but like I mean, we got free updates and that's even better, so
Yeah, it
for
does
a
suck
while
that they
anyway.
seem to like cut support on it very quickly when I feel like they could have done a lot more with it.
Yeah. It's a game with a lot of longevity, but Nintendo sort of typically abandons it after 2 years. Anytime they make a change now though, it's like, "Oh, are they making a change because they're working on Mario Maker 3?"
Hmm.
That's always the thing because like the new console's coming out soon, right? Or like they're announcing it for next year. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
I'm not sure the whole like discussion around that. I don't know if it's just like the Switch, but obviously more like powerful, or if it's like because Nintendo usually is like here's a whole new thing. Like even
Yeah.
Wii and Wii U, technically it was a whole new thing with their
Yeah, there's an
tablet and
error in
HD.
marketing
They just
to
really
yeah.
fucked up the name.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're trying to do with it, but at the end of the day, the Switch is like one of the best selling things just ever. So I don't know.
Yeah. Which I mean, I think that was helped by a couple of factors, but like I think it had even more potential if it had better release titles. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
that whatever console they come out with next, they have like some pre-planned Nintendo classic like, you know,
Hmm. Yeah,
names
I get it.
behind it. Because
Yeah,
like
I'm
what
excited
came
to
out
see
on
what
the
happens.
Switch? Like 1-2 Switch, ARMS, like
Yeah. Well, at least I think Breath
Breath
of
of
the
the
Wild
Wild,
came out,
maybe.
which is
Yeah, but
good.
it was also on Wii
It was
U.
also
I
on Wii
guess
U though. Yeah.
I guess for most people that's not a selling point, but like for me, I was like,
Yeah.
I have a Wii U.
Yeah, I get
I
it.
think Odyssey came out like
That
a
was
couple months in.
Oc- October 2017, right? I think so.
I Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was like pretty quick, but it wasn't release title,
No, it wasn't a
which
release tile. It was
yeah, like
later
I
that
feel like
year.
it could have been a release title and like probably would have done better.
Maybe. But I think they were baking on Breath of the Wild, and
That's
let's
true.
be honest, it worked. But that game
Yeah,
popped off.
I guess so. Most of my Nintendo fans had a Wii, or my Nintendo fans. My friends are Nintendo fans, right? So like most of those people just were really into Mario Maker. If they wanted Breath of the Wild, they would just get it on the Wii U.
Yeah, that
So
that makes sense.
yeah,
But
definitely a like subset of the consumer base that like is dedicated enough to have a Wii U, but not dedicated enough to buy a Switch. I only bought my Switch when Mario Maker 2 was announced.
mm,
So
yeah, once the
and
Switch
like
came out, I sold my Wii U. So
I only have two Wii U games, and it's Mario Maker and Mario Kart 8. and Mario Kart 8 came with the console, and I have about 5 hours in it.
Fair enough.
So
Yeah.
my Wii U is basically just a Mario Maker machine, and now it's a retroactive Wii because my Wii broke, but I still have all those
Oh
games,
yeah.
as you can
It
see behind me.
yeah. It's a whole Wii
I
as
pointed
well,
the
which
wrong
is
way.
good. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I don't know what the future console is gonna be like, and I don't know how trustworthy I want to give the whole leaks or whatever people talk about.
Yeah,
I don't
the
really I don't
rumor
really
mill
follow
for
that
sure.
shit. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
well, no,
see.
there was like a tweet from like an official Nintendo account saying like we're working on
We're,
this.
they will announce something. We just don't
Yeah,
know what it is. Is all.
yeah,
But yes, I I am very curious what will come of it, but only time will tell.
hmm
Now,
for sure.
so obviously we talked a lot about Mario Maker, but I know you've at least dabbled in speedrunning outside of it a little bit.
Yeah, little bit. Obviously, my speedrunning's like I learned how to live split worked through doing Super Worlds,
Yes.
and then from there, I've done a little bit of Odyssey. So Odyssey was this interesting case where I had this idea to not play the game casually at all, and I would
Mhm.
just watch an any percent speed run and then like try to replicate it from memory. Um, which worked really well for the first couple kingdoms, but by the time I got to like Cascade or not Cascade, Seaside, it was like I don't know where any of these moons are, and I don't know how to do fish clip.
Yeah.
So I have to change the route, and it was like it sort of became a casual playthrough in the last like 2 hours. It took me 4 hours to beat the game. But I was basically following the speedrun route for the first half. Um, and I actually thought that was like a pretty fun experience because like instead of doing like, whatever else, I just immediately went and did Dino Skip and I got it third try and like,
Hmm.
you know, that's how I kind of enjoy games. I like to break them. Like even if I'm not the one finding it, it's cool just to like do these unintended things. Um, I think my best Odyssey time was like an hour 17 or something, like not very good.
Better than
But I
mine.
do want to go back to it eventually. It yeah, it's one of those weird games where like so much of it is just based on movement.
Hmm.
That if you don't have like decent movement, you're like at a huge disadvantage. And my movement was like starting to be okay, but I would still miss a lot of jumps.
Yeah.
Um, the only speed game that I've actually gotten like kind of good at is Yu-Gi-Oh! The Sacred Cards, which is a Game Boy Advance game that was just one of my like childhood favorites. Um, I'm not into Yu-Gi-Oh! Outside of this game, but apparently the rule set is an abomination.
Mm.
There are like uh, types as well as summons, so like you can have a monster with 0 attack beat a monster with 2500 attack if it's just the right type. Um, but yeah, that was an interesting speed run. I set a goal of getting under 1 hour in any percent, which I didn't actually realize how difficult it was going to be because I just sort of looked at the top times and saw they were 45 minutes. I was like, okay, so 15 minutes slower. Not realizing that those runners were doing a lot of RNG manipulation that I
Mm.
wasn't wanting to implement. Um, so I actually got pretty good at the category for Manipulus. Um, I think my eventual time was 58 minutes, which smashed my sub-hour goal, which was good for 14th place on the leaderboards. But there's no split on the leaderboards between um, Manip and non-Manip. So the world record is like 31 minutes. Um, but like he wins the duel on the first turn because everything is Manipped. Um, it's actually a really interesting speed game to look at, but the reason that the categories aren't separate is because it's just so hard to draw the line on what is manip and what isn't. Like if you do perfect movement in the opening sequence, the first two duels that you get will have a predetermined outcome, and because like the RNG is all what is in your deck and your movement, and those are the two factors in it. So if you don't change your deck for the first two, which is generally the strategy because you don't have any good cards to change out yet anyway, if you do perfect movement, you're going to get the ideal fight. So in my 58-minute run, even though I'm not doing any RNG manip intentionally, I get the perfect first two fights. And it's like, well, did I manip? Not really, but like I also did. So it's really hard to draw that line.
Hmm.
Um, there is a category extension, which is like every um, every duel in the game, which takes a lot longer. And the rule set sort of exists where, okay, yeah, you can do the first two, whatever, but it's manipless, basically.
Yeah.
Because like those two duels, the time save isn't significant enough to matter for the rest of the run. So that would be something that I'd be sort of interested in. Um, yeah, in a similar vein, there's a category extension for Reshef of Destruction, which is a ridiculously hard Yu-Gi-Oh game, like just stupid. um, you can beat the post game um, in a speed run, and the world record's like 7 minutes because it's again all manipped to win on the first turn. Um, and then like if you're not manipping, you're way down. I think my time was like 45 minutes, which because no one plays this game because it's stupid and no one like gets to the end. I am second place on the leaderboard, but like just purely out of it's not a good run. It's just purely, no one's done it. Um but yeah, the GBA is like one of my soft spots for gaming. Like that era is really cool to me. I love those Pokemon games. I'd love to get into Lego Star Wars speedrunning on the GBA actually. Jank Pickle
On the
has offered
GBA.
to give me some tutorials on that. But yeah, that whole little era of gaming has a special place in my heart. Even though I grew up with the DS, for some reason, it just doesn't quite capture me the way GBA games do.
Yeah, it's funny. I grew up with the DS, so I'm just quite unfamiliar with GBA, even though the old DSs could do GBA as well.
Yeah, so that's how I played it. I don't have a Game Boy. I have a DS with a Game Boy cartridge.
Fair enough. But yeah, something I want to get into, but I think the way I'd want to do it is I need like I don't have a GameCube,
Right.
so but that has the Game Boy player, so I feel like that'd be the
Yeah,
best
the
way. But I'd
virtual.
have to get a Game Boy player and a GameCube, so it's like, well,
Yeah,
someday.
I've been looking for a good deal like just locally, through like garage sales or whatever on old consoles. I'd love to like start a bit of a collection.
Hmm.
Um because like my earliest console is a PlayStation 3. Like
Earliest.
yeah.
Wow.
Like I mean I guess if we're counting the DS as a console, like I'm like that's my earliest system, but
Hmm.
uh yeah, I'd love to build a bit of a collection of like, okay, here's my Game Boy, here's my N64, here's my, you know, PS1 even.
Yeah, I've been making a little bit of a console collection. I don't really care about game collecting personally. I like the
Mm,
convenience of like putting it all on either, an SD card, EverDrive, all that stuff, just for ease
yeah,
of access. But
for sure.
um, yeah, the con having original hardware there was nice. And like I know the Wii is also a GameCube, but well, first of all, I want a GameCube for the Game Boy player, but
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I've got a decent collection. I just need a couple more things and need to.
Yeah, the GameCube specifically, I don't know. They've been hard to track down for me. Like
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure I
haven't
could
looked
get it
too into it.
online, but it's sort of just like, I want to find a good deal locally. Like I've bought a couple DS games that way, and it's like, oh hey, this like really cool game for $15. Uh, that like online would cost me 45 sort of deal.
Hmm.
I like the fun of searching for that more than I like having the thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
keeping my eyes peeled. I have a couple GameCube controllers actually, because at one point me and my friend Dante were trying to get into Strikers.
Oh, yeah.
The GameCube version of that game is super fun. So I got the controller to compete with him, but we couldn't get Dolphin working where it would connect online. So
Mm, yeah, I'm not too familiar with that series, the Strider games. So, but
yeah, it
seem
was
fun.
kind of like the GameCube was the best one, and then after that, it was like all sort of just not as good.
Yeah, especially the I've heard like the more recent thing. A lot of the sports games on the Switch were just kind of disappointing, I think, was the overall consensus.
Yeah, I'm generally not one to buy a bunch of games. I have to be pretty convinced that I'll play them a lot. And with how much I play Mario Maker, I just don't spend a ton. Like I got Wonder. I really like that. That's another game that it would be cool to speedrun. All Royal Seeds category. Let me look at my. Oh yeah, and I bought a couple Pokemon games because I'm a big Pokemon fan. But like other than that, my game collection is pretty short.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I barely have any games. I just play them off of things for ease of access. That's
Yeah.
just who I am, but yeah, game collecting's cool though. Just I don't have that kind of money. I'd
True.
rather just spend a couple
Well, especially
hundred
for
on an
the NES,
EverDrive.
right?
Yeah,
Like
that's what's
NES
good.
games must be.
Yeah, I don't know how bad NES games are.
Oh, okay.
I feel like
I
they can't be too bad because it's NES. A lot of it's not that great, and it's super primitive, but
right.
there is like a lot there, and that's what's nice because there's a lot on the NES and most of it's bad. So you get Never Drive, and it's like, well, now I can play all of it without having to waste all my money on garbage shit.
Yeah, even the like NES games that come with Switch Online that you can play. Um, like that is how I experienced Dr. Mario. Like the only way that I have basically.
Yeah, yeah. The games that are offered on the Switch Online, those are like the good ones. So
Yeah.
I'm glad,
And you
but
can you can get them for free, and like if those are the good ones, I can only have like 5 minutes of fun with each of them to be honest, except for
yeah,
like you know Mario one probably.
yeah. I mean, they are primitive, so
Hmm.
that's just how it is. If you're used to more modern gaming, but you got to have that respect, and
Oh,
I I
absolutely.
I have that nostalgia because the NES is just what my family had growing up, so I played it a lot. So
Right.
that helps me appreciate it more than others might. But
For
yeah,
sure.
there's definitely some good stuff on that console, so it's worth owning to me. But
Hmm.
yeah, for Switch Online people, like you're getting most of what you want out of that console, so that's a really good option for it.
So did you grow up playing Mario 1 then?
It is the first game I've ever beaten in my life.
Okay, that
Isn't it
checks out.
funny how things work out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
you
rem.
started one-handed or
Oh no, that came later, but no,
Yeah.
I don't know. When I first beat it, I had to have been like only 5 or 6 or something. I remember like my mom was like, "I could never beat this. How'd you do it?" So I guess I was a prodigy. No, I don't know. But yeah, just that nostalgia really helps when it comes to speedrunning. Like, oh, this looks cool, and I have this huge nostalgia for this game. I know what I'm doing, and then it just
Yeah.
you get a little addicted, and then here we are, I guess. But
Yeah, I mean it's the only way that it works is like if you don't actually love the game that you're speedrunning, you're never gonna put in the practice time or anything like
oh,
that
absolutely, yeah.
to actually get remotely good at it, never mind mastering it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, it's always important to run something you're passionate about playing and
hmm.
enjoy
Yeah.
because otherwise, what's the point, right? It's supposed to be fun at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yeah, is there anything like in Mario Maker or speedrunning that you're thinking about in the future that just haven't been put into action yet?
Uh Nothing's really on my radar for Mario Maker right now. Like stuff can always come out and it might catch my eye. Um, I was never huge into ninjas, and I think most of that community sort of moved on to Wonder as the next 2D game, or just wherever else they go. Because I
Mhm.
know a lot of them are really good at other speed games. King Boo, for example, famously uh, really good at both 3D World on the Wii U and 3D Land on the DS or 3DS maybe. Yeah. Um, so yeah, not a ton happening there unless Nintendo, releases something else. I think most of my speedrunning endeavors are going to be other games, but still mostly on Nintendo consoles because that's that's where it's at for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any specific games in mind?
Um, Odyssey is like still always a back burner goal. I want to get a 105.
Ooh, wow.
Um, that would be like it's one of those things where like you think about it, you look at it, and it's like 10 minutes slower than the world record. I can do that, and then you like look at the strategies required, and it's like okay, I got to get good at that, got to get good at that, and then it's all movement.
Mhm.
So like I think I can get good enough at the movement to reach that, but we'll see. That's sort of a long term goal.
Yeah.
Um, I mentioned Lego Star Wars. Wonder is a possibility.
Oh,
Um, Pokemon Yellow actually is a game that I've kind of failed to mention. I have done like a couple runs of that. Um, that's just a fun game. That route is like kind of cheesy. You use a Nidoking and X accuracies and Horn Drill to just one shot everything. um, so yeah, we'll see what the future holds. I don't think I'll be getting extremely good at any speed games anytime soon. That's still going to be Mario Maker. Although I did play Mario 64 yesterday for the first time ever because
really?
Mario
Wow.
64 Builder.
Oh, that's
Um,
right. That just came
yeah,
out.
yeah. So I was playing a Carl Sagan level
Hmm.
last night, and I unfortunately had to end before I beat it. But I'll be going back on Monday and beating that. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe Mario 64 will capture me, and I'll want to do some 16-star runs. You never know.
Yeah, I run a lot of, well, not a lot, but I really enjoy running Mario 64. Really good
Yeah,
game.
it seems like one of those games where like most speedrunners have tried it at one point. So I would
Hmm.
not be opposed to giving it a shot for sure. Just
Yeah.
that camera, dude. It's so bad.
Oh, yeah, I get it. Trust me. But it's less painful in a speed run. It's actually used to
Right.
like better get your angles correct.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think it ends up more benefiting the speed run. But yeah, casually, oh god, I get it.
Yeah. I don't think Mario 64 Vanilla would be a game that I played casually, but speedrunning, maybe.
Yeah, and so actually, I'm curious as someone with like 2D Mario Maker stuff. How is the Mario 3 like the 3D 64 Maker stuff?
Um, I think I picked it up relatively quickly. Um, there's definitely still a lot of times where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this jump. I'm definitely gonna like overshoot or undershoot or something, but I just don't have a good feel for it. Um, like, so I ended up doing uh part of the level unintendedly.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm not sure if it was I was lacking game knowledge or what, but I applied some SMW knowledge, um, where sliding on a slope and then jumping off of it, if you hold nothing on the D-pad, you're going to go faster than if you were holding right. So I applied that to Mario 64, and I don't think it made a difference, but it just happened to allow me to find a setup where I could cheese it.
Hmm.
So like little things like that where it's just I'm willing to try stuff that I might not have thought of otherwise has helped. But in general, the movement is wildly different. The only like sort of transferable skill so far is like pressing the button lightly to do a small jump. That's the only thing that's really helped out.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I'm starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
definitely
I
something you
also
gotta
have
learn.
yeah, I also have a little like the Odyssey um muscle memory built in a little bit. So it's like, okay, I know how to ground pound, I know how to long jump. Sometimes it screws me up because I'm like, I want to throw Cappy.
Yeah, he ain't there yet.
Yeah, that'd be something.
Yeah, I know there's
Get
a
the
whole
ROM
like
hack community involved in that. Get a Cappy
yeah.
in 64. I want to see it.
Oh, there's a Mario 64 Odyssey moveset ROM hack.
Of course there is.
I've heard it's quite good, but I haven't touched it. But
Maybe I should check that out. Maybe I'll be
maybe
good
it'd
at
be a
that.
good transferable thing. Yeah,
There's a hack for that. That should
there's
just be the
always a hack for
catchphrase.
that. That's what I've learned. You want it, it's probably there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kingdoms. What for like the Mario 64 thing? Hmm.
Maybe that is the next 64 thing that I will check out after Mario
Yeah.
Builder is 64 Odyssey.
Yeah, like how Mario Maker can be a good stepping stone into the Mario World ROM hacking community, where you get like more complex things that aren't limited to what Nintendo allows for you to do.
Yeah.
I think this Mario 64 builder could be a good stepping stone into like Mario 64 ROM hacks because
I
there's a
really
lot of
hope
like
so.
Kaizo stuff there too, and you can do
Yeah.
a lot more creative things in just like general, just cool regular games that are
Yeah.
out there.
I really hope so. I think in my opinion learning 3D is a little bit harder than learning 2D.
I think most people would
Both
share that opinion.
yeah, both in terms of playing and making.
Hmm.
So like I think the ceiling might be higher, but it's going to take a lot longer to get there. I'm really excited to see that though, and I hope it does transition into more people being creative in Mario 64. Um, it's been a pretty common sentiment on Twitter. Like, if Nintendo strikes this down and like takes legal action against this hack, we're probably getting 3D Mario Maker.
Yeah,
So
but also they just
it's
need to stop being assholes.
yes,
Oh
definitely.
my
It,
god.
it it doesn't help them in any way. Like this would absolutely be a theater to generate hype towards
Why can't people make
an
free
official
shit?
release. Yeah,
Jesus, please.
yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy how much Nintendo hates their fan base. But at least it sounds like we're doing Mario Maker fairly well, so I'll give them that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they have their disdain for SMW ROM hacks for sure.
Yeah,
Especially like in 2015, apparently that was a pretty rough time to be part of that community.
really.
Um, but yeah, like ultimately it's the two communities are complementary, and I'm hoping the same thing can happen. What I really want to see is some of the top speedrunners take a crack at SM64 Builder once there's a
Mm,
couple more like hard Kaizo levels. I think that'd be really interesting to see. Um, because I'm sure there will be a lot of Kaizo people that play that and then move into speedrunning. I might be one of
yeah.
them. So
There's quite a few good Kaizo Mario 64 people I know
oh
of.
yeah,
So yeah,
for
it'd be
sure.
nice for that community to build too, because I don't think it's quite as large as any other Kaizo scene. Could be wrong,
Yeah,
but I
I
just
know
assume that.
that the only person that crosses over between Mario Maker and that Kaizo community that I'm aware of is Sumbro you don't know, who is like an absolutely insane Kaizo player. Um, he was one of those like really young kids when like all the hard levels were dropping. I think he was 11 when he beat Panga's U break. Um, and he just kept going and then eventually got into 64 and he's a very good SM64 Kaizo player but has never tried speedrunning interestingly.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I mean, they are different skill sets, although
for
similar.
sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I understand not doing one or the other, but yeah, I mean that's cool. They're very different, so having the skill set for both is
Yeah,
hard to do.
I definitely is very I can't imagine. I think I beat U break like only a couple months ago.
Mhm.
Like within the last 2 months when I was a fully grown adult. I can't imagine doing it when I was 11.
Mm. Younger people can do better reactions and
These darn kids with their
but
smartphones.
with these better reactions and more time to grind, those damn kids.
Yeah,
Oh well.
exactly. It
uh
is interesting how the peak in video games just keeps getting younger and younger. Like even esports, they're like it's a bunch of 15, 16
yeah,
year
I
olds
really
in like
saw that with the Tetris community.
oh
Thanks in
yeah.
part to the Salt video that came out recently. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
just
yeah.
saw that go the age gap go or the
Yeah.
ages go lower, 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 lower. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
and the ceiling is just that much higher.
And I've noticed that with Mario 1 as well. Like a lot of the. When I started, I was fairly young at the time. Not like super young, but I was like
Yeah,
18 when I started. And now,
right,
like, people are starting and being good in like the start of high school kind of era.
right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, man.
Has Nifsky like has he publicly said his age?
I'm definitely certain, but I don't recall exactly what it is. I think he just started like college, kind
Oh,
of.
okay.
So,
Okay, yeah. So it's not like he's super young.
but when he started, yes, that was like
Right.
early high school kind of days,
Right.
and,
Okay.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's like a lot of top Mario one kind of started around that time.
Right. I
I
guess
started
you.
going into
Well, yeah.
college, so
It's so optimized. Like you need yeah, literal years to.
hmm you
Yeah.
got to have that time sink. You can't be having a job or anything. You gotta be that young person that has the time.
Yeah.
Uh, But yeah, I think I'm out of things I knew to bring up. I don't know if there's anything we haven't gone over that you can think of that would be worth talking about.
Uh, no, I think that was a really fun conversation. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. I really wanted to get the full like introspective 0% from, you know, the reporter himself. So
The spokesman. Yeah.
yes, as they say on the interwebs at least.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
should add that to my Twitter bio.
0% spokesperson, bringing you live footage from the scene. But
Yeah.
yeah, that whole 0% thing, I just remember it popping off and it was super cool. And obviously, your name was mentioned a lot, bringing awareness and news to the scene. So
Oh, awesome.
it's nice to get info from the source, I guess. But yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I will ask real quick. In terms of like kind of the YouTube content side of things, now that Mario Maker 1 0% is over, do you have like more ideas for content on that side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I sort of unintentionally took a month-long break after 0%. I sort of like didn't realize that I was burnt out because like obviously Twitch and YouTube isn't my job. I work 45 hours a week already.
Yeah,
And I was, streaming a bunch and spending all my time editing. So it was nice to have that break, and then I sort of went to Japan. um, so I was actually working on a video. I don't know if you saw Carl Jobst's video about the whole Ahoyo thing,
I did. Yeah.
but yeah, okay. Um, I was working on a very similar video, and I was going to release it like the morning that I went to Japan. But my editing software crashed after 4 hours of work and not saving. So I'm like, well, now I don't have time.
Rip.
So I'm probably just not gonna upload that anymore. But yeah, I was able to help Carl out with that video, which I'm really happy to see the story told elsewhere.
Mhm.
It's kind of like not even, at this point, it's like 2 months in the rearview mirror, just time to move on to something else. So that's what I'm doing. Still have lots of ideas to make Mario Maker fun with challenges or whatever. And then, yeah, moving into sort of different games as well. I want to start doing casual Pokemon stuff. One of my big inspirations for YouTube content is Small Ant.
Mm.
Like his style of video where he sets himself a challenge, he'll stream it, and like that is like you know the focus of the stream, but he's also just being a regular streamer, and then telling a story through YouTube. That's sort of what I want to transition to, and if that's mostly through Mario Maker or if that's through anything, um, that's like sort of my ideal like goal to make that style of content. Um, GDQ is actually super helpful for me. Like, first of all, it was just a ton of fun to meet everyone. But I had like a 2 to 3 hour conversation with We Skill Now, who is Graham Poober's editor,
Mm. Oh
and
yeah,
like,
him.
yeah, and he was like super helpful in like my channel direction and focus, and just like giving me ideas, like not only for how to optimize titles, thumbnails, the like. Um, but also just like what the goal of the content should be. Because at the time I was just uploading basically Twitch clips.
Hmm.
Like I would have a similar idea to uh, like what Smollett was doing. I would so for example, Watch Mojo has like a top 10 hardest Mario Makers level list.
Hmm.
It's awful.
Uh,
It's
most of their
completely
lists
terrible.
are. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's what you'd expect.
hmm.
Um, so my idea was to play through all 10 levels. And like the first 7 I beat in like 45 minutes combined, and then the last 3 were actually pretty hard. So I beat them. But then instead of like doing a voiceover and saying, and this is what happened next, this is what happened next, I just spliced together stream highlights, and that wasn't nearly as engaging.
Hmm.
So I sort of started to look at that and go, okay, how would I do this video differently? And then started to apply that to everything else. Um, so I didn't expect going to GDQ to like massively change my perspective on YouTube content, but like talking to We Skill Now um, really sort of made me realize, oh, I need to speak directly to my audience on YouTube. I need to make the content for them, not both Twitch and YouTube, because that doesn't work. They're different platforms with different formats that work.
Hmm.
So uh, that's basically the plan. More edited, um, you know, concise YouTube exclusive stuff
Hmm.
is the game plan going forward.
Well, it all sounds cool. I obviously wish you luck on your content endeavors. So,
Thank you very much.
and of course, thank you for being on the show here. It was
Thank you for
good
having me.
talk.
It was a fun conversation.
Yeah, if anyone has a question on something we didn't go over, please feel free to ask. But as we wait, I mean, shout yourself out. Go ahead.
Oh, sure. I am TheRileyC on most platforms. Twitch, YouTube, Twitter. I have a TikTok, but I'm ashamed of it.
Yeah.
I don't post there. The the problem I actually ran into is like the TikTok algorithm when you're like just starting out is like, well, let me feed this to someone local. And like my friends were seeing it, and I'm like, oh
Mm.
no,
Oh, that's a
I don't want that.
yeah.
Like
Local.
people from high school were like stopping by the stream, and I'm like, no, this isn't it.
Stay away, please.
Yeah, exactly. Like I how am I getting 100 views and like at least 5 of them are people I know? That's not okay.
That's kind of
So
freaky, actually.
yeah, it was extremely freaky. I'm like, no.
That's what I noticed. I tried Snapchat to like talk to a couple speedrun friends, and it kept recommending me
Uh,
all these people I went to high school with without me giving any information about me, and I was like,
yeah.
uh, meh, scary.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I don't have a TikTok, so I guess I'm gonna keep it that. I never plan on making
Yeah.
one, but I'm gonna keep it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, maybe don't.
But if
um
it works for you, good for you. You
but
know.
yeah, most of my content is Twitch and YouTube, and you can sometimes see clear videos or my unfiltered thoughts on Twitter if you want unfiltered thoughts.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, I think we can wrap it up here. Thanks everyone, of course, for watching. You know what to do. Follow the things. You know where to find them. YouTube description on the stream. And also follow me, I guess, if you want. That's fine. I'm not gonna complain. But yeah, I guess we'll call it a day here. So yeah, just take care, everyone. See you next episode. Um, it'll be in a couple days when I stream the next one, but it'll be a week from now that it's on YouTube because obviously, you know the drill. Post these every Sunday on YouTube, but sometimes you got to make them in advance. So, but yeah, all right. Thanks again, and take care.